is directed. Good afternoon, Marcelo Carlos Bardiaquian from the Radio Oriental Uruguay. I wanted to ask you because, yes, the other day you mentioned that the replacement of Andrés Caeta was based on the qualities of the opponent. Based on our opponent tomorrow, Bolivia, do you already have a game plan? Do you have the lineup ready? Is Bentancur necessary for the 11 starters based on what you expect to see from Bolivia? Well, I have not defined the 11 starters yet, and there is nothing in particular that I observe that could condition the lineup. Javier de León, Vamos que Vamos, Cadena Celeste, Claro Sports, Mundo Deportivo, por Rodrigo Bentancur. You have been one of the role models for this national team and a starter. In this Copa America, you started on the bench, you played a couple of minutes. What is your take on this situation when you are not a clear starter for the team? Good afternoon. I'm feeling great. With being a part of this, being able to play another Copa America makes me privileged. We have an incredible team. There is a very healthy competition among us, and I always say this and I will repeat this. We are here in any position necessary. So I started on the bench the last match. I enjoyed it and I keep that mindset. I will try to deliver from whatever position. Happy birthday, Rodrigo. Good afternoon. Marcelo, what is your opinion on the general condition of the fields for this tournament? How do you administer the energies of the players? Because we have seen some level of wear down and very high temperatures. Rodrigo, what do you expect against Bolivia in the next match, even if it is as a starter or from the bench? Well, it's going to be a great match. A minute after the game against Panama, we started working on our match against Bolivia, so we just have to recover the energy of the players that added the most minutes, and we will, of course, play this match respecting Bolivia as our opponent and going after the 3 points. Regarding fitness and performance, you have available information for the performance of each team, and Uruguay was clearly superior to its opponent. And I don't have any observations on that point you mentioned. The assessment on the stats of each player and the different halves and the segments on the match indicate otherwise. Carne Deportiva, Marcelo Bielsa, the first match against Panama was perfect. In the second half, we did not have great possession. What was the difference? And Marcelo, have you analyzed the opponents maybe for the future, like Brazil after the draw against Costa Rica? Well, I have not analyzed those rivals yet. We focus our analysis on the next opponent. There is not enough time to project on things that we don't know for sure. Good afternoon, Mario Martinez, EA Sports. Marcelo, the other day you mentioned that there is no room for dominating the ball and then being on the opposite side. And if it happens, do you have a plan B? Well, can you provide me with more information when you refer to a plan B? What do you have in mind? If I understand, I might be able to provide you with an answer. Broadly speaking, football entails possessing the ball rather than recovering the ball. So that is our objective, having more possession and, well, given the options of playing in the attacking half or the defensive half, we prefer to play in the attacking half. When you play in the attacking half as a team, you dominate possession and you increase you increase the opportunities to damage the opponent. And I think that the plan B to which you're referring is conceding the ball, conceding opportunities, and I don't know if you're referring to that. Either you have the ball and you play in the attacking half, or you are playing in the defensive half trying to look for a counterattack. And I am aspiring to players that can be decisive and protagonists. I always choose players, and I always choose that option, being protagonists. In addition, well, the plan B for a match where Uruguay created 3 times the opportunities than its opponent and dominated 70 or 80% of the minutes. Imagine that there's no room for thinking out the differences between the first half and the second half when actually there is a limit to it. It was minute 5 to minute 15 of the second half. It would be, I think your position is different to the one I have for the first match. Radio Cristal Uruguay, live. Based on your take on playing on the offensive half. So when you lose the ball, the recovery, and what is your impression on how the Uruguayan players handle that? Maybe some years ago we didn't have that idea of being offensive and playing in the offensive half. And if you have a take, Rodrigo, on the duels on the pitch. Yes, recovery after losing the ball for the coach, and in your case, how you assimilate that in the 1v1s on the pitch. Well, once you lose the ball, Marcelo expects us to recover the ball immediately, having 2 or 3 players on the ball. This is what we train for. That is what we try to do during the match. It is part of the intense play we propose. And Marcelo already said this, but We are aiming at dominating possession. Sometimes you nail it, and sometimes you can't manage. And the idea is to apply the same for Bolivia. Based on that persecution, if you want, or if we may call it that, one of our players would be marking one opponent at all times, but that is not our goal. Each player will protect the area assigned to him by the game plan. But if there are no opponents in that area, it doesn't seem logical, so you have to change the mark, adapt, make some movements. If you watch the match in detail, you will see that our players, each of our players, marked at least 3 different players in the different sequences. Rodrigo Marcelo, live for Sport 890, Rodrigo Vázquez, Rodrigo Bentancur. Given the game plan of the coach and his philosophy, do you see an impact by the temperature? Some players were suffering the heat. Do you think there is an impact? And for the coach, Matias Olivera was experiencing some discomfort after the last match. Will you consider him for tomorrow? Well, the heat, the temperature affects us and the opponent. So it has an impact on both teams. And Marcelo already mentioned this, but the stats were great for the team. We played at a high intensity level. Of course, one might note a wear down in the next matches, but the opponent tried to play at the same level of intensity. They couldn't do it, but I think our stats were very good. And yes, Ronald was a bit dehydrated, but yes, the heat affects us both as teams, and now we have to recover the ones that were the most tired. Every player is available. There are no injuries in our team. César López, Agencia France Press. The last match between Uruguay and Bolivia was in the qualifiers in November. Victory for Uruguay 3-0. Based on the first match of this tournament, do you expect to see a similar result or development to the match we played in Montevideo? Well, you can never envision with accuracy the result of a match or the differences you might see on the pitch. We can imagine things before the match, but we have to realize our ideas, and there are many potential fluctuations, so we have to be cautious, and we'll always try to set the tone regardless of the result. And if we think that something is possible, we make it possible. ESPN, Rodrigo, how many birthdays did you spend in tournaments with the national team? One teammate from the Tottenham wrote to you some hours ago. What is your engagement regarding your birthday? Marcelo, one of the fans shouted, go Newell's, and when you were getting to the hotel and you raised your arm and were happy on it. Do you think that the Uruguayan diaspora here in New Jersey has a relevant role that you were touched by it? I already mentioned it, and it's a privilege to be here with my national team. It is my birthday. It's my second family, so I'm really proud of being here. And I'm also lucky to have my family with me. To a football player, spending your birthday with your family and your second family is a great privilege. It makes me really happy. I am enjoying it to the fullest.
La idiosincrasia del ciudadano de un país o el nacido en un país en particular se multiplica cuando esa persona se convierte
idiosyncrasy of a citizen or a national of a country is boosted when you live overseas, because you cannot enjoy the daily life in your home country, so it makes you nostalgic. You don't have identification symbols, and that identifies massively the Uruguayans and everyone that wants to seize that time. It makes the people want to show that they are really close. La Nación, Buenos Aires. Federico, how do you analyze the current situation of Argentina now that they moved to the next round, and now that my colleague introduced Newell's in this press conference? Will we see you with Newell's again? On Newell's, it is my club. I belong to that club, and I deeply appreciate it. So if someone shouts the name of Newell's to me, I try to show that it touches me. What was the next question? We apologize from the booth. We could not hear the questions. Well, I seize this moment to clarify, because I said that to me, Vinicius was the best winger of the world. I never said he was the best player in the world. And I think that it is best to clarify that. I just want to avoid misunderstandings. Vinicius is the best winger in the world, not the best player in the world. I understand that there were no misunderstandings, because what I said is what I am repeating right now. But I think it was fair to clarify to avoid any misunderstandings regarding Messi's place as the best player in the world. And regarding the Argentine team, I have not watched the matches, but it's not necessary to perceive that the evolution, the adaptation, and the ambition are intact to the passage of time, and that they are a part of the amazing coaching work that we can observe from the outside. Sebastián Amaya from El Observador and the referee. Marcelo Bielsa, what do you feel when wearing these 4 stars of the 4 championships of Uruguay? And what do you feel about the buzz around it? About the buzz around it? What topic in particular? Well, I was wondering about the soccer crest on your chest, and what do you think about the buzz? Well, we cannot hear questions asked without the microphone. I'm sorry.
Pero bueno, obviamente
I didn't know there was a object of discussion.
capacitado para opinar, ¿no? Yo creo que la
I
historia del
don't
fútbol
think I
uruguayo
am
tiene
knowledgeable
escalones
enough
de
to
un peso
have an opinion on that
que,
discussion. The
que
Uruguayan
evitan que yo
football
me sienta
history
demagogo hablando
has a weight of its own,
el país
so
al que estoy perteneciendo o acompañando en este momento, ¿no? Pero si usted
there's no need for me
lo
to
que ganó en las condiciones que la ganó,
provide an opinion.
es suficiente
I
como
am no
para
demagogue,
asignarle
so I think their history
un
is
rol
enough.
que excede a la cantidad de
And
estrellas. Y por otro lado, la cantidad de futbolistas
it is a country that won a World Cup.
reconocido.
I think it is enough,
Hablan del fútbol
and
uruguayo.
it's
Insisto,
regardless
porque
of the
cuando uno
number
habla
of stars.
de
And
la
some
organización a la que pertenece
people
y mucho
talk
más si se
about
representa
Uruguayan
un país,
football, and in this case, when you are
parecería que
representing a
cualquier
country or an
elogio una
organization,
forma de captar
it would
simpatía.
seem
En este
that
caso, las evidencias
any
son tan
level of
claras
praise
que puedo
is
referirme a ellas sin
pronounced
correr el
to
riesgo
create
que se me
empathy.
interprete
And I
como
think
adulado.
that I am no false praiser here, and I think that the history of the Uruguayan football speaks for itself.
Quería consultarle a Marcelo.
Las voces del
Bueno,
fútbol.
el fue
Marcelo,
un tema que no trascendió tanto, pero quería consultarle por qué no ingresó Luis Suárez el otro día frente a
why
Panamá. Rodrigo,
did
Luis, en ese rol que tiene ahora desde el banco de
Suárez
suplentes,
stay out
si
of
te
the
transmitió
pitch
algo
on the
o
previous match?
le dice algo justamente
And
desde el banco el otro día.
Rodrigo, did Luis convey any message to you after the match? Well, Luis is constantly talking to us, to me, to the entire team. He is a great role model to us, a very experienced player. So having him as a teammate for this Copa America is a privilege. And as a referent player, he has helped us greatly. He helped me on the first day, and he is now helping every young player. So we try to seize the opportunity of playing with him. And the way in which you asked the question entails that there was some buzz or issue related to his potential substitution. So
el argumento para reclamar el ingreso de un jugador es el resultado.
Claiming, or maybe to you, the justification of a replacement would be the result, and it's not. It is the need of the game plan. It is the need for a replacement given the tiredness of the player inside the pitch or the demands of the match. But the result is an element that is part of the scenario to be modified. But the way you formulated the question calls my attention. So, to put it differently, there were no problems with my decision because the team was winning. If we were losing, I should consider what you're saying. I don't understand. Marcelo Bielsa, Panama's match is done now, and now what are the differences between the next opponents? In particular, the traits of concern for our opponent tomorrow. It's an interesting question. It is tough for me to answer clearly. I feel that Panama has a different biotic type than the Bolivian players. I think that the Bolivians are a bit more resilient or powerful. I think Panama has an important percentage of its players playing abroad, maybe not in major leagues, but with a competitive level that entails the development of its own players. And in that sense, Colombia, I correct myself, Bolivia, doesn't have that visibility or is not visibly undergoing that process. But I think that there are common traits in those two teams. The tournaments or the places where Panama competes and the ranking in its zone, Mexico, US, Costa Rica, Canada, Panama, has given the team the right standing, and I see that Bolivia has not consolidated that same standing in its zone in South America. Diario AS, Marcelo. Now in Colombia, there is a great discussion on the favorite teams with the historical justification of the Uruguayan team and the current development. How do you manage that concept of favorite teams with the team? Well, favoritism is of no relevance. It is something used by the media outlets and other communication means to see what responses they may elicit. It is impossible to define before a match a result with accuracy. If you compare football, soccer with other sports like American football, baseball, basketball, with a greater level of previsibility or predictability, well, in football, the weakest team might win. It is a different spread if you compare it with other sports. I think that the media uses that resource to underestimate the strong teams and overestimate the weakest teams. I wouldn't dedicate a lot of time to it. It is impossible to predict results, and if there is a continuous trend to polarize the clubs, the differences will be less and less interesting. Marcelo, what is your take on Núñez, its effectiveness, the stats regarding the accuracy in finishings, and in particular, your impression on his Liverpool season? How do you work with him? on the pitch and
Sinceramente
football-wise,
¿cuáles
and
son las manifestaciones que,
or regarding emotions?
bueno,
Sincerely, could you
mire,
repeat?
nadie
Well,
se convierte en goleador
no one becomes a
por
top scorer
errar goles, sino por lo
by
contrario,
missing
por convertirlos.
goals, by missing
Todos los
shots.
jugadores que son goleadores
On the contrary, they become
perdurables,
top
no
scorers
que meten goles
by
de vez en cuando o en un periodo, es
finding
porque
the
saben
net.
definir.
The ones
Luego son humanos, ¿no?
that last in time
Tienen
as top
ciclos
scorers are the ones that
donde
know how
esa capacidad es más
to
evidente y
finish
donde
the
es menos
opportunities.
evidente. Obviamente Darwin
There
es
are
un jugador
cycles, there are ups and
que no
downs,
necesita ningún tipo
there are
de
human beings,
acompañamiento porque
but
nadie que
Darwin
ha
doesn't
hecho el
need
proceso de desarrollo,
any
hay que
specific
saber lo
assistance
que significa
because
jugar en el Liverpool, ¿no? Nada menos.
he
Y con quién
plays
compite,
for the Liverpool.
y cómo fueron sus ciclos, y cuándo convirtió,
And
cuándo dejó de convertir,
we all
por qué dejó de
know
convertir.
what his
Son cosas que
cycles
él
were,
gestiona en
but
proporción al
those
ciclo que ocupa en
things
el fútbol mundial.
are managed by him from
Discutir,
his
entre
position
comillas, a un
in
jugador
world-class
como
football.
discutir, no sé si es efectivamente
Challenging,
lo
well,
que
I don't know
sucede, ¿no?
if
Pero
this is what's
a
going
mí lo
on,
único que me preocupa es que
but
él quede en la mayor
I
cantidad
am a
de
bit
veces
worried,
posible en condiciones de hacer lo que hace de
or
manera
I am
ordinaria, que es convertir,
focused on
definir,
having
terminar
him
las
in the
acciones,
best
elegir
condition to do what he
hacia
does
dónde
the
debe
best,
dirigir el
that
remate
is scoring. So
que
he just
está
needs
en
to
condiciones
decide the
de
direction of the
ejecutar.
shot
Después, le insisto,
once he is in
para evaluar
conditions
se
of
mide la
executing.
globalidad y por supuesto que dentro de la globalidad hay
We assess
segmentos
him as a
que
whole,
no sé si ahora será un segmento negativo de
and
él, ¿no? Un jugador que
maybe
en los dos
sometimes there are
últimos
ups and
partidos metió 4
downs.
goles, que
In the
para
last
mí
two
no tiene
matches,
ninguna
he
importancia,
scored
pero
4
porque
goals.
los puede meter como los
To
puede
me,
errar.
it
Podría haber
has no
metido 3
relevance because he
contra,
could have missed them.
contra
He could have scored
Panamá y 1 contra México, pero da
3
la
against
casualidad
Panama and 1 against
que
Mexico.
ha metido
But
4 en los últimos 2 partidos.
he scored
Insisto,
4 in the last
sería
2
un
matches.
contrasentido que yo dijera
Would
eso de
that
que
be
tiene
deemed
valor, porque estoy
a
diciendo lo
down in
contrario.
his
Si convierte, convierte. Si
performance?
erra, erra. Sabe
It will
definir,
make,
sabe definir.
if he
¿Cómo
scores,
es
he
la
scores.
mejor
If he
manera
misses, he misses.
de
Does he know
acompañar
how to
eso que
finish?
él no
He
necesita
knows.
compañía? Lo ha
And
demostrado
what
que lo
is
puede resolver por
the
sí mismo,
best way to provide him
tratando de
with
que tenga
support?
muchas
I think he has
pelotas para
shown
convertir goles.
that he can
Última
do
pregunta.
well by himself, and what we can do for him, assist.
Antes de asumir como entrenador de
Last
la selección,
questions. Rodrigo,
usted, Marcelo, dio algunos conceptos elocuentes
Marcelo.
sobre el futbolista que tiene al lado. Hoy, la enorme calidad
Well,
del
before
mediocampo hace que
taking up on your role as head
importante
coach,
del
you
partido tenga que estar en el
praised
banco.
the football
Me
player
gustaría
that
que
is now
desde su
sitting
visión de
right
entrenador,
next to you.
muy diferente a la de
Now,
cualquier
he is on the
nos dé
bench.
conceptos sobre cómo lo ve
Can
a
you
Lolo
share with
y
us
cuáles son sus
your
mejores
impression right
prestaciones
now
en
on Lolo's condition and what his best traits are for a national team? Well, you're making me really uncomfortable because he's sitting right next to me. So imagine if I praise him, the conclusions will be that I am praising the player to whom I'm not giving any minutes, as you pointed out, the minutes he deserved. So, if he plays, Valverde doesn't play. If the question would be, what about Valverde? Well, same with Arrascaeta and De La Cruz. And maybe instead of asking why he isn't on the pitch, we can value that the teams become stronger not based on the number of starters, but on the number of options for those starters. Having said that, I will repeat myself. I will use someone else's expression. To me, it describes him very well, and I told this to Jorge Giordano. I told him, bien Bentancur, good Bentancur. And he told me, llenó la cancha. He filled the field. And that, did I make reference to a Brazilian football player that plays like you? Do you remember his name? No. Okay, that is very important for you to see how I can influence the mindset of the players. Great.